name is Mwai. I am a pastor with Christ is the Answer Ministries here in Nairobi, Kenya. I want to take this opportunity to begin a discussion with you and something that is usually very close to my heart, and that is the area of worship. And I know that there are many of you out there who many times want to ask questions about worship, want to engage on worship, because we all love to worship. We are worshiping beings. God has created us as worshiping beings. But the good thing about it is that our God, as we begin to have a relationship with Him, does not leave us without a witness. He does not leave us to try to figure out how to worship Him. He has given to us the Bible, His Holy Scriptures, His own personal revelation. And throughout the Bible, from Genesis all the way to Revelation, you will find men and women worshiping God according to the particular revelation they had at the particular time when God called them to Himself. So in this particular broadcast, I would just want to present just a few ideas and a few things, and especially touching on the area of what does it mean to have a biblical worship, a worship that is biblical. Remember Jesus Christ speaking to a Samaritan woman by the well. He made a very important statement, and He said that those who worship Him, those who worship God, must of necessity worship Him in spirit and in truth. In other words, God is interested in our worship, but He is interested in a worship that reflects His true nature and who He is. A worship that reflects His revelation of Himself to us, so that we are worshiping the God of the Bible in a way that will glorify Him and in a way that will also edify us. So in this first installment of this particular season, as we're talking about worship, I want to just bring a very interesting aspect of worship. Probably you may have thought about it, or maybe you just take it for granted, and that is the narrative behind our worship. I submit to you that proper worship, biblical worship, is guided by the redemption narrative. At the very beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth, created everything that we see, both seen and unseen, He also created man. And God's desire and intent was that He would fellowship with man, and that man would offer to God unrestrained worship, because there was a perfect unity and a perfect union with man. But of course, you know the story that the first man, together with his wife, they fell into sin, and that relationship was compromised, and that relationship was broken. And of course, God now set in motion and in place a redemptive plan from the book of Genesis, in Genesis chapter 3, where we find what we call the proto-evangelicum, the very first mention of the gospel. And God's plan and purpose was to redeem man to Himself. And He brings in place the law, and after the law, eventually Jesus Christ, who is a fulfillment of the law, comes, and Jesus Christ is hung on the cross for my sin and your sin, so that you and I could one more time experience a relationship with our God. This Jesus Christ, after He was hung on the cross, He died, and on 3 days later, He resurrected. And for 40 days, He was seen of men and women, and they saw that indeed He had risen from the dead. And then after that, He was taken up into glory, but He's coming back again. Now, that short narrative that I've just given you there is what the narrative of worship is all about. In our worship, we celebrate the redemptive plan of God for us. The Catholic mystery of our faith proclaims that Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. In other words, the whole gospel message can be just summed up in that statement that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. He has died, He has resurrected, and He will come again. Our songs must reflect that narrative, whether directly or by implication. Our prayers must reflect the narrative of redemption. As we pray to God, as we call on Him, it must be reflective of that narrative of redemption. The poetry that we do must reflect that narrative of redemption. Our own lifestyles, by the way, must reflect that narrative, because once upon a time we were dead in sin, but now we have been resurrected. In other words, when I'm born again, when I have a relationship with God, I am living the resurrected life. Friends, that is the essence of worship. And our worship, our music, those of you who are music writers, those of you who are artists and creators of wonderful works of art, ensure that the narrative of redemption is always reflected, whether directly or by implication, in whatever you do. That is the worship that God embraces. That is a worship that he embraces. That is a worship that he receives from his people, those of us who are redeemed. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. God bless you. And in our next broadcast, we'll be able to take this a little bit further as we look at another aspect of what biblical worship is all about. You've been listening to me here at CITAM Church Online. My name is Pastor Jesse Mwai, and I'm going to ask, why don't you hit that share video, just share button after you watch this video, so that you can share with others, so that they can also participate with us, but you can also get in touch with us. Leave a comment, say something, tell us maybe what you've learned, or maybe a question you may have. And until next time, may the Lord bless you.